Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the KittyFoxCast. In this episode, I don't really know what to talk about other than what happened this week, and I have to say, it was an eventful week, but it's also non-eventful. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have those weeks where you really don't do much at all, and then at the end of it, you're like, wow, man, that was such a busy week. I can't believe all that happened. But then, am I lying to myself? Is that something that people experience? Like, oh, I had a really long week at the end of the week, and then during the week, you're just kind of like, man, I gotta do stuff. I got things to do. I got things I gotta accomplish. And then at the end of the week, you're just like, well, I did a lot this week, so I'm just gonna be lazy all weekend. Maybe it's just me. Well, the week leading up to a furry convention is always interesting because you got to start prepping things because, you know, preparation is a very adulting thing to do. And I myself consider myself to be an adult. I'm an adult, I think. Though sometimes I question that too. I don't really know what an adult looks like in 2023, but nevertheless, I am of legal age, so I guess by law that makes me an adult. I pay taxes and I pay bills and I get paid an adult wage. At least that last one is kind of up in the air as far as maybe negotiable, maybe could be a little more, but you know, that's for a different episode. So the week leading up to a furry convention is always fun because your preparations include multiple things. Now, to any of you normies out there listening, or to any of you furries who have never been to a convention, let me just rationally explain how this goes. So, you got your reservations. You have your plane ticket or your gas budget, however you're getting to the convention, maybe a train budget, depending on if you're a foamer. Because I'm talking to you, foamer furs, I know you're out there. And then you continue with the planning as far as how you're getting there. So in my case, this past week, I am getting there via airplane. So I opted to fly to Megaplex, which is in Orlando, Florida. And to give you perspective, I live currently in Northeast Ohio, so it's a bit of a hike, if you ask me. So I opted to fly this year because of the last 2 years total I have driven, and that is a 16-hour drive from Northeast Ohio to Orlando, Florida, both ways. So you're talking a very easy 32 hours of driving straight. I was like, you know what? 3 years in a row, I think I'm good for a while. I think I've driven myself, to my own insanity. So I think I'm good for this year at least. So you opt to get a plane ticket. You got your plane ticket. You confirm the flights. You confirm the times. You confirm the days. You confirm your time off, which that's the second part of this. So you have your flights. You know when you're leaving. You know when you are supposed to wake up that morning, because generally in the USA you're supposed to be at the airport about 2 hours before your flight leaves. And when you go to plan your flight, you have to plan, okay, this is the time off that I'm taking. So you go to your little time card thing wherever you work. Some of you have this, especially if you work in retail or if you work in any sort of a industrial setting. Let's just say generic job, right? Then you got your little time off thingy. So you have to be very, very careful with your time off, because getting a time off approved is hard enough, but getting it approved and then having to be switched after approval is an even bigger pain in the tail. So you got to be absolutely very careful and very, very aware of what time you're leaving and what days you need off. This is the third ambulance this has gone by. Ah, jeez. I don't know if y'all can hear that, but it's getting closer. That would be the third ambulance I've heard this year. This year? I beg your pardon. Let me backtrack. Today. So I don't know what's going on. I do live in a college town, so that does have its explanations in itself. But I think for the most part, I'd like to say people are okay. That's just me wishful thinking. I hope they're okay. I hope whoever that ambulance is for, they're okay. Anyhow, so you have to be very specific with your time off. So in my case, I opted to take next Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday off. Thursday is for travel, and once we get to the convention, half of Thursday is for the convention, Friday is for the convention, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday is just for the flight. So every single day that you're requesting off, your hand is shaking because you're like, I hope this is right. And you're constantly going back to the calendar and you're looking at the times and you're looking at the just everything that's set up prior to this. So you schedule your time off and you're like, okay, think we're good. And here's the thing. I'm going to rant just for a second. My boss, love him to death. He's one of the greatest bosses I've ever had in my life. Very cool, very reasonable, very, understandable as a manager. However, the man takes his sweet time in approving time off. Now, not that really matters in my job, my line of work, because if you say that you're going to take off, then it has to be approved just for administrative purposes, only for like pay and that kind of thing. It's not really you have to be approved in order to get time off. No, like literally you could schedule your time off and then he could wait until like after your time off is over and still approve it. So it just depends on what the pay period is, if it's the pay cycle or if it's it depends on where in the pay cycle he has to approve it. So that's very important. Now, in order for that to happen, you need to go to him and say, hey, I need these days off. And generally speaking, he's pretty reasonable. He says, well, do you have time off? I said, yeah, I have 32 hours. And he'll say, okay, yeah, go ahead. So take those 3 days. Now, I, of course, had to pick this time off. Well, I can't judge when Megaplex is because last year it was in August and this year it's in September. And the only reason for that is because of a new hotel. So, hey, I'll take it. New hotel, I'll take it. I love new hotels. I'm going to miss the Campo Royale very dearly, but I am very excited for the Hyatt Regency Orlando down in Orlando, Florida for Megaplex this year. All right, so then you go to him and you say, all right, well, here's my time off. And he'll say, okay, I'll approve it. At least that's what my boss says. He's, like I said, he's pretty reasonable. Now, being that you need those 3 days off, and given the time, my job is very, very finicky when it comes to responsibilities. I have multiple responsibilities. I have a lot of things that I do day to day that aren't necessarily my responsibilities. Like I said, I work in a warehouse, so there's definitely a lot that comes with it, and a lot of jobs that I do that I probably shouldn't be doing or not necessarily responsible for. Well, next week we have one of our inventory periods coming up. So I'm going to be there for the 3 days of inventory, and then the last 2 days of the week are supposed to be catch up from that era. So that's fun. And not to mention, myself, another coworker, and a third coworker have completely thrown this for a loop, only because I looked at our little time off kiosk, our little rundown of time off, and it turns out me and those other two coworkers are off all at the same time. I don't know how this happened. I have no polls for this. I don't know how. I didn't influence anybody. Turns out two of my other coworkers are going out at the exact same time that I am. So, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't influence anything. I didn't encourage anybody. Nothing like that. Well, turns out one of my coworkers is going to visit his kids down south. My other coworker is going on a trip with his significant other. Good for them. I'm not going to dispute any of that. Not like I have any say in it to begin with. So, my boss has a sort of an unwritten rule that no more than 2 people are allowed to take off all at the same time. But in this case, it just all fell together, and somehow we all managed to get around the same time, and we talked to each other about it, and turns out we all scheduled it at about the same time, like a month prior to our time off. Now, I usually plan ahead whenever I go to convention. I tend to schedule time off about a month in advance, only because I know how hard it is to plan ahead, and who knows if I'll even make that convention at that time. So yeah, you got to be smart about it, and you got to definitely be on top of your own time. So it just so happens that me and 2 other coworkers are taking off all at the same time. And my boss even brought it up to myself and another coworker who was going off for time, said, how did we manage that? And I was like, I played dumb. I was like, I don't know. And my other coworker was like, I don't know. And my boss said something along the lines of, because both of us are standing there sweating bullets, just waiting for his response. And then he just said, well, this is going to be interesting. And my coworker and I looked at each other, and we just breathed a sigh of relief of just, oh, he didn't say no. Okay, we're okay. So, because we weren't sure how that was going to be taken, Sometimes you don't always tell your boss that you know more than you know, because the more you know, the more you do, and the more you do, the more insane you go. So, yeah. And if you're the person who brings it up to your boss, like, hey, I just noticed that 3 people are off at the same time, he might look at you and say, well, can you sacrifice your time? I'm not about to do that. I already paid for this convention. I'm already in the hole a couple $100, so I'm not going to refund that at all. Like, that's not going to happen. And I understand my other coworkers have their own things going on, but anyway. So, we're good there. So, you schedule your time off. That whole fiasco happens. Something like that happens or occurs. Then, you got to start preparing for the actual trip. So, you make a list. You have your little shopping list. In this case, the list has to be very bare bones because you're getting on a plane. So if you have a checked bag and a carry-on, then you're good to go, and you won't have to pay a lump sum of money to get your stuff to Florida. So in my case, I have a duffel bag that I can fit my fursuit in. I have a backpack, and I have one carry-on, which is my handheld carry-on for my fursuit head. So I'll explain how this works. So the duffel bag has 3 layers. First layer is for the suit. The bodysuit, the paws, the hand paws, the feet paws, the tail, and any flat items like collars and handkerchiefs and that kind of thing. The second layer is for any extra bulky items, like, for example, my hang air, which is a hanger dryer. It's got a fan inside of it, and it's great for your fursuit. If you've sweat all day and you just need to hang it up and blow it out, that's like a really good product to have. My boot dryer, which is for my head because I sweat a lot. So a boot dryer, just a standard boot dryer from Amazon. It flips up and it blows hot air upwards. So you're supposed to put like a pair of boots or shoes on it, and then it'll dry the shoes out. But in this case, you put your head on both of the spikes on the. That sounds really morbid, but you put your head on the sticks that come up, and then it'll dry out your head in less than half an hour, which is fantastic. You got your rubbing alcohol, you got your balaclavas, you got your glue and your fix-it kit, just because accidents happen. You have your like any outfits that you want to bring, your harness, your maid's outfit, can't forget that, and any rave gear, and just generally anything that you want to wear. So the clothes and those items go in the middle section. The top section is for badges and smaller items like watches and prescription meds and anything like that. So I also have some side pockets and some, essential pockets on either side for those small items. Can't forget the phone charger. Okay. Now I got a list in front of me. I will go through. So, we have your props for your fursuit. You got your outfits, like I said, and especially you got to have your Vax cards, even though it's Florida. You still have to have your Vax cards. You have pack Advil, pack Tums or antacids, those help a lot, trust me. Even if you don't get heartburn regularly, they come in handy, especially for stomach aches, because you're most likely going to eat something that's not going to agree with you. All right. Hangers, just like not hangers because you have the hanger, but like clothing hangers to hang up your fursuit parts and any other clothing items in the room. Water bottle, collapsible water bottle. I highly recommend it. Toiletries, like the miniature toiletries you get for planes, like shampoo, toothpaste, toothbrushes. Bring cologne and deodorant. Do not be a stimky boy or a stimky girl or a stimky they. You don't want that. Okay. Definitely get some sunscreen or some skincare product, because if you're going to be out in the sun, and it is a Florida con and there's going to be a lot of sunshine, so take care of your skin. Bring moisturizer, because after fursuiting and after swimming in the pool and other activities such as that, you're going to get dry skin. If you're going to be sort of like the point person of the room that you're staying in, I recommend trash bags, napkins, and paper towels, because you never know if you can fit it. Also bring something to read. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, your eyes are going to be so tired from looking at your phone all day that you're going to want something to read. I usually bring a book or something. Earbuds, because you might have sleepless nights, get bored, and you don't want to make a whole bunch of noise with your phone. I bring my camera equipment, plus extra batteries and SD cards. Like I said, bring your phone charger, flashlight, because if there's a power outage, that's going to come in handy. Bring masks, because COVID is still somewhat a thing. And your bathing suit, and any fun items like that. So, don't go too crazy. I would recommend don't go too crazy on, you don't want to go too crazy on like items you don't need. So if you need like, oh, got to take this prop, got to take this, got to take that, got to take this for my fursuit, this outfit, these glasses, that, just remember that you can only wear one thing at a time, and you can only live one day at a time. I have a really nasty habit, actually, of bringing too many things to a furry convention, specifically clothes. Like, I'm really bad at bringing clothes. I'm bad in the sense that I never wear any of them, because most of the time I'm fursuiting, so I don't wear a whole lot of clothes. Also, Under Armour. Very important, bring Under Armour, because it's going to be hot. Bring Under Armour, and bring a lot of socks and underwear, because you're going to be going through pair after pair after pair. Trust me, I've done it. All right, so we have the packing list done. In order to pack, you need to do some laundry. So in my case, I do laundry over at my parents' house because it's free. I do have a facility on site on my complex property, but it's $1 per load. So I'm not about to pay $1 a load. It's not worth it. It's a lot of money in the long run. So I do it for free at my parents' house. Now, that being said, I do wash my clothes in my parents' washer, which is a top load. I don't particularly like top loads with agitators. The thing about top load washers with agitators, they don't really do fursuits very well, especially bodysuits. However, my bodysuit is made to withstand such harsh, I would say, harsh realities of the washer. If you're going to wash a fursuit, I definitely recommend a front load. Anyhow, so I checked with my maker. I made sure it was okay to wash my bodysuit in a top load. He said, yes, absolutely. It's durable. So, and I have done it many times, and it has proven well. However, still highly recommend a front load. Anyway, so you bring your fursuit over to your parents' house, which is already fun. My parents, they know that I am in the furry fandom. They know that I participate in it, but they don't know the fullest extent of it, and they don't ask about it. That's fine by me, and I'll keep it there. Now, the thing about washing your fursuit in your parents' washing machine is you have to keep it hidden away. So the minute you walk in the door, usually my parents are sitting there watching TV or something. The minute I walk in the door, I go straight to the laundry area and I open the lid. I make sure everything's empty. I take out anything that isn't. I take my suit and turn it inside out because that does help. And I throw it in the washer, put the detergent in and whatnot, and I set it on delicate, very important, delicate setting so that it doesn't take out any threads, right? And start washing it. And hey, I'm in my first load, and they're like, okay. So, and here's the thing. I picked a day during the week to go over there that they are not doing laundry, because if they are also doing laundry, then you're screwed. You can't just like, hey, let me sneak this in there. No, you have to have your first load of your fursuit, your only load, that is your fursuit, to be the only thing in that washer. Because if you try to wash it with other clothes, it's not going to turn out very well. Highly recommend just your one fursuit. Well, if you have more than one fursuit, one fursuit at a time. Okay? So you're washing your fursuit. You're making chit chat, and you're keeping a close ear for that signal. That what I'm talking about, the noise that the washer's done. Once it's done, you jump up immediately and you go, oh, the first load's done. I'll be right back. And then you go. You hope that your mother doesn't get up and follow you. You hope that she doesn't come find you for some reason, because you gotta hustle real fast. So you take out your suit, and thankfully the spinning was delicate, so you're able to make it work. So you get your hanger, you hang it up, and it's not sopping wet, so you can just hang it up and leave it. And from there, you just let it dry. You let it air dry. Never, ever, 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 ever put your fursuit in a dryer. That will destroy it. Doesn't matter if it's cool dry. It will still hurt it. I've heard some people say, well, I dry my fursuit on a cool setting. It don't matter. You're going to run the risk of it getting too hot and it melting, because that is very fine poly plastic. It's not actual fur, okay? So if it was actual fur, then you could probably put it in the dryer, but I don't recommend that either. And I don't recommend an actual fursuit anyway, so yeah, we'll leave it at that. So you hang it up in a very discreet place, somewhere they won't find it. And you do your other loads of laundry, or do whatever you got to do. And then you come back, you check inside the washer that you just washed your suit in, and you realize, oh no, there are fur bits all inside this washer. So then you got to take your hand and you got to run your hand like scraper style all around the inside of the washer, because if you don't, then that fur stays in there. It's either going to clog the pipes, it's going to clog the drain from the washer, or it's going to just stick to every other piece of clothing that they put in that washer. So you got to take your hand and you got to like pick out each and every single little fur fiber that you find. And not to mention, I have washed my suit at my parents' house multiple times. In fact, I just did it on Wednesday this past week. And I have found over the course of the past couple months, whenever I go to my parents' house, whenever I look around, specifically on the floor, in the bathroom, around the washing area, I'm noticing my fur is everywhere. And I don't mean like all over the floor, like unable to clean up. I mean like there's a little speck here, there's a little speck there, there's just a little hangy do from one of the towels, or there's something that's just, riding on one of my clothes because I brushed up against something. Yeah. And I mean, when I say, you got to be careful. Get as many fur fibers as you can and throw them away, or better yet, put them down in I don't know, if you have a garbage disposal, maybe even better. I don't know if that'll do any wonders for it or not, or throw it outside. Like take it with you, put it in a little baggie, throw it in their garbage can outside, do what you got to do. But yeah, get it out of there, because they're going to find it and they're going to be very suspicious. What's all this red stuff? What's all this white stuff? What's all the whatever fur color you have in your fursuit? They are going to find it, and it's not going to be a good time for you. So you wash your fursuit, you hang it out in a secret, discreet location, hoping that they won't see it, and then it's time to leave. You throw it over your back. It's kind of wet, a little damp, a little cold. Throw it over your back like a child, and then you rush it out to your car before anything else. Rush it out to your car. Try to hang it up in your car as best as you can without it getting everywhere, and without it collecting any dust in the process. Then you come back in, and then your mother asks, "What were you doing?" "Oh, I was just, I was getting something in the car, putting something in the car, and I forgot about." "Oh, okay." Usually, those answers that you give work pretty well. Um, I don't think my mom has seen my fursuit yet. I don't think she's seen me actually wash my suit there. Actually, no, that's a lie. Um, she did ask me one time. She saw me carrying it. She's like, "Hey, what's that?" And I said, "Oh, something that I can't put in the dryer." And she was like, "Okay." I said, "Basically, it's like a rug," which I wasn't lying. And she's like, "Oh, okay. It looks a little odd." I'm like, "Yeah, it just requires some special washing." "Okay." So, and then she's good with that. I don't know why she's good with those answers, but still a mystery to me. So you run your suit out to the car, then you go back in, you hug your mother, you say bye to your dad, and pack up your clothing and all that, and you throw them in the car and you leave. Good. We are good. And then you hang it out in your house, either with the hang air or some other way, and you let that sit until the convention. Okay, so we've covered that. So you pack up your bags, pack them like I would recommend 2 to 3 nights before the convention, because depending on when you're leaving, it can be really difficult, because when it's time to go, it's time to go. For example, this coming Thursday, my flight is at 6:30 in the morning Eastern Daylight Time. So I need to be up approximately by 4 o'clock in the morning to get to the airport, and the bags need to be in the car by 4 o'clock. Or no, sorry, in the car by 4:30 or so. So that way you can get through TSA and checking and all that good stuff. So heaven forbid there's a problem, heaven forbid there's a layover or anything like that, and you miss your flight. You don't want to do that. Don't want to be that guy, especially if you're flying with other people. In this case, my other person is Ty Tiger. So shout out to you, Ty Tiger. Follow him on Twitch. And we're going to be traveling there together. So the last thing you want to do is be the holdup. You don't want to be the one who sleeps in. You don't want to be the one who forgets to pack something. You don't want to be the one who, is just makes everybody late, because that's a real douche canoe move, and I highly don't recommend that. I highly do not recommend that, as I said. So that's the story. That's how you properly prepare for your convention. So not only did my coworkers and I schedule the same exact days off, and I have a very long adventure coming up, I'm very excited for it. I have to admit, I'm excited for Megaplex and their new hotel. I'm excited for this new time frame of Megaplex happening in September. I'm excited to see all my friends again, the ones who come from across the world, and who come from across the country, who I don't get to see very often at the northeastern U.S. cons. I'm so excited. My friends from Texas, from Oregon, from even overseas, like from the UK, I'll be seeing. So I'm really looking forward to this. So if any of you are going to Megaplex 2023, look out for Samson Kitty Fox, and I will see you there. So this leads me to, speaking of work, this leads me to another thing that happened this past week that I just tickled me to no end, because my workplace does not know that I'm a furry. There is only one person who's a knower, but the rest, they have no idea. They don't have any inkling even at I'm a furry. So they don't even know what I do on the weekends. So that's good enough for me. So my coworker and I are very different. I'm going to call him Dale, just for the sake of safety and privacy. So me and Dale are very different. Dale is an older gentleman. He's, I believe, middle-aged, whereas I'm in my mid to late 20s, I should be honest. I don't want to accept it yet, but I am. And we think very differently, but we can still get along. Like we bust each other's chops all the time, and we're constantly like ragging on each other, like you're old and you're a millennial, and you're short and you have a beard, and you're tall and you kind of stupid. And so that's just kind of our relationship. We're constantly just zinging each other over stupid stuff, and it's great, and I love it, and I love Dale to death for that reason. So Dale also has slightly different political views than I do. Actually, they're vastly different, but for the sake of the story, I'll keep it pretty apolitical. One of the things that he likes to talk about are conspiracies, and I love it to death. He's not like a flat earther or anything like that, but he loves his tinfoil. Like, he is a huge tinfoil lover. In fact, he walks around in tinfoil most of the day. So I'll rag on him for that. Like, oh, the aliens are coming, or oh, what do you think of the JFK assassination, or whatever. I'll just bait him, and he takes it every time, and it's so much fun, harmless fun. I promise you, it doesn't get violent or judgmental. It's all in fun, and he knows that I'm joking. So if I was being serious, then I'd probably be fired. So let's be honest there. One of the things that he talks about are animals and like the terrifying reality of animals. Like, I think he told me that he believes in Loch Ness Monster, and he believes in Bigfoot, and there was another one. What was it? Megalodon. That's what it was. Megalodon and Leviathans. So bless Dale's heart. I can't prove any of this. I don't know if it exists or not, so I'm just going to keep it on the table as something fun to talk about. So one of the things he talks about is cats and big cats, and then he'll talk about house cats and how, like, they're particularly related genetically, which they are. House cats are a lot smaller and domestic, and whereas big cats like lions and tigers are, obviously wild. But he also brought up the point that house cats can be feral. I was like, well, dogs can be too. Like, you can have wild dogs. Like, they can be domesticated dogs, but they can still be wild and feral. So, yeah, that kind of brings that point to a close of any animal can be feral. It can be savage. It can be, wild. It just depends. So it depends on how that dog or cat or animal was raised. So I'm kind of sitting here in my head, hey man, don't you be telling me about animals. You have no idea what I am. If only you knew what I was, you wouldn't be so happy. You'd probably make more fun of me if you knew what I was. So that's another reason I don't bring up that I'm a furry at work. Anyhow, so he was telling me about cats, and he was telling me about how cats have weird behaviors, and they're demons from hell and all this weird stuff. And I'm just like, okay. And then he brought up domesticated animals such as lizards. So he was telling me about bearded dragons. He was telling me about, how you can have lizards as pets. And then he started telling me about monitor lizards. So, and by the way, this story is going to seal our relationship. You'll see exactly where we come from in our relationship when I tell you this. But he and I were talking about lizards, and he got to these species called monitor lizards. And I'm like, I don't even know what a monitor lizard is. And I didn't. So I was like, what's a monitor lizard? I've never heard of this. So I go on my computer, my work computer, and I look up monitor lizard. And basically, it's those big lizards. They can get up to I think 5-6 feet long. They're pretty big boys. They kind of look like not raptors, but they have like a dinosaur look to them. I think they come up to if you're like an average height person, they come up to about your hip, I think, like if they're standing up, hip or your stomach. And he was like, man, look at those things. Can you believe those? And here's the thing. I had seen these lizards before, but I had no idea that they were called monitor lizards. So there I am. I'm just like, oh my gosh, look how cute they are. I said that. I was just like, oh my gosh, they're so cute. And they, look at these guys, and their eyes are so adorable. They look adorable. And I just like started going on and on and on about how cute these lizards were. He didn't say anything. Dale looked at me and he said, man, you're such a dork. I was like, what? He was like, that thing's not cute. It's evil looking. It looks like the devil. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Look at it. He's got little eyes. He's got his little tongue, and he's got his little hands, and he's just, just having a good time. And he just started shaking his head and just like, why do I even tell you anything? So I'm coming from a place of I want to cuddle it, and he's coming from a place of that thing wants to murder me, which to his credit, I totally get. I want him, I want him to, I want him to have his own opinions. I really want him to be justified in what he's saying because he has the right to think the way he thinks. But at the same time, my response was that thing is adorable. I want to cuddle it. I want to put a bow around its neck. I want to walk it around the neighborhood. I want to I want to pet it. Yeah, I want to take that thing home. And he was just looking at me like, you are hopeless. So here's the furry at work telling the old man that things are cute when he doesn't think they're cute. And so, yeah, that's a perfect example of how our relationship is from day to day. I think monitor lizards are cute. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're adorable. Do you guys think that they are? Because I want to know what you think. Just Google monitor lizard, like computer monitor, monitor lizard, and pull up some pictures and tell me what you think. Because I think they're adorable, personally. So that seals mine and Dale's relationship. I swear, if he knew that I was a furry, he would probably have the time of his life making fun of me. And then the rest of the workplace would know. Not just my department, but everybody would know. Like, this is what Samson does on the weekends. He goes to conventions across the country, and he prances around as a giant fluffy animal. So, not really a good look when you're in the type of job that I am with a bunch of, like, grizzly, old, rusty, conservative white dudes, mostly, So, I mean, I'm not saying that to be judgmental. I'm just saying that is the demographic that is my workplace. So, yeah. Anyhow, that leads me to another incident. And some of you may have heard of this news story in particular. There was a man who, I believe it was some guy in Japan or Korea, or it was some other country other than the U.S. My coworker Dale, he calls me over to his desk one day, and I'm like, okay, what's this about? Because normally when he calls me over to his desk, it's because he needs something, or he has a question, or because he needs help with something, or he wants to show me something, sometimes. So he calls me over to his desk, and he shows me this news story on, I believe it was NBC or something, and the headline read, man spends, what was it? I think it was like $16,000 or $17,000 on a lifelike collie suit. And they were covering it. Like, this man spends like $17,000. And for those of you who are knowers, and to those of you normies who are knowers and furries alike, those of you who have heard about quad suits, in basically, in a simple definition, non-butchered, are animal, like real life or lifelike animal suits that walk on all fours. So you might have like stilts, you might have certain additions to the suit that allow you to walk on all fours because a human being cannot walk on all fours comfortably. So I've seen quad suits in real life, and they are actually pretty fantastic. I've seen some real lifelike ones that look very convincing. So basically this article could read, man spends about 15 grand on a quad suit, and the news anchors, of course, were going on about, oh, this is insane, and I can't believe he would do this, and like, who spends $15,000 on a realistic animal suit? Does he want to be an animal? Is he otherkin or what? And I'm like, first of all, you don't even know what that word means, okay? The word furry, fursuit, none of that was even mentioned in the news article, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay. And then my coworker Dale, bless his soul, looks at me and he says, this is what I don't understand about people, why they would do stuff like that. Like, where does this guy get $15,000, and how does he spend it on something like this? And my dumb tail, just a reminder, I have a very fluffy brain. Like, my brain is constantly in furry mode. Like, even when I'm at work, I'm thinking about furry stuff. I'm, thinking about content. I'm thinking about conventions. I'm thinking, it's a very big part of my life. So it's constantly in the state of fluff, right? No thoughts, only fluff, right? the first thing that I say, I look at that and I say, oh, Dale, they get more expensive than that. Smacking my head, shaking it, what is wrong with me? I immediately turned around and walked away because I was like, no, I'm done with this conversation. I can't go any further because he's going to ask me, what did he mean? What did I mean by that? And how do you know that? And so on and so forth. Thankfully, he didn't say anything else about it. He had mercy on me. He didn't say anything else about it. He was like, he didn't even say, I didn't even hear what he said as I was walking away. I know he said something, but I can't remember it because I was shell shocked. I was flashbanged by my own comment. Oh, they get more expensive than that. Really, Samson? Really? You're going to say that to your normie coworker who has no idea what the furry fandom even is and who, oh, why would you do that? So I went back to my desk, I drank some coffee, and I sat back and I just started thinking about my life choices. Like, what is wrong with me? Why am I doing this? Well, what is it good? Is anything else going to come of this? No. Nothing else came of it. Thankfully, nothing else came of it. But that would have been, oh, jeez, that, ugh. I can't. I can't even fathom what would happen, what would have happened if that were the case. But anyhow, so that was another story. That happened a few months ago, by the way, and to this day I still don't have an explanation as to why I said that, and it hasn't come up since, so I think I'm in the clear. That is basically my work chemistry. The only knower at my workplace is someone that I have shown my fursuit to. We were at the same in-town festival because we live in the same city, and I happened to do a cosplay over my suit, and he saw me, and I knew he was going to be there, and he saw me, and he was like, hey, I like it, and I don't really know what to think, because obviously he knows what it is. Like, he didn't say inherently that, he didn't freak out, he didn't have any concern or anything like that. He was just kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of cool, and just left it at that. He's very good that way. He's very good at making you feel comfortable. So shout out to you, sir, for being a knower and for not making it awkward or embarrassing or dramatic. So I highly appreciate you for that. Now, that leads me to something that happened on the way to work. I think it was on Thursday this week. I told the story on stream yesterday, but I think it's worth telling again because it made me question some things. Question how, like the Matrix and how the world kind of revolves around me. So, because obviously the world revolves around Samson. Yeah, right. Anyway, so every morning I get up at relatively the same time for work. I get my stuff together, I brush my teeth, I get my coffee, and what have you. Put my hat on, grab my shoes, go out the door, and I drive the same route to work every single day. Now, this route includes, I want to say, 3 different railroad crossings. So the first one is right at an intersection, which is dangerous sometimes. The second one, it crosses over towards a little industrial district, and then the third one is further down. So the first railroad that I go over is the most active. Maybe 1 to 3 trains a week will go through on those tracks. But it could be more, it could be less depending on the week. And they are not commercial. They are industrial and they are cargo railroads. So yeah, you don't see any passengers, unfortunately. So the first set of railroad tracks, I've only been stuck at twice, I think, in my couple years of living here. So, like I said, not very active. Now, this particular day was different. And what had happened was different. Because one of the things that I should point out is that this first set of railroad tracks is very bumpy. Like, the tracks are very uneven, and there is a very low dip down on the middle of the tracks. So I opt my best when I'm driving my car over them to go very slowly and to proceed with caution because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if one of my tires is going to give out. I don't know if one of my axles or bearings is going to shoot from the from the resting place and then hit somebody else's car. So you got to be careful with that. Anyway, so I go over the rough and rowdy tracks. And then as I'm going over, like immediately as I'm going over the tracks, I notice that the gates start to lower. And I panic and I hit the gas and turn left onto the road that is my route to work. And I see the gates coming down slowly. Like they start coming down as I'm going over the railroad tracks. And I was like, ooh, so that's freaky enough as it is, seeing the gates close, but knowing that there could be a train right there coming. And then I listen for a second. I don't hear any train whistles because that is by law. They have to use their whistle for any sort of crossing. And I don't see or hear or feel or, no rumbling, no nothing. I don't hear anything. And then I look back and I see the gates start to go back up again, just like randomly. I'm like, huh? What's happening here? And I realize, it just dawns on me. Did I activate the signal somehow? Did I go over the tracks so roughly that I somehow actuated the signal? Like, it started to cross my mind really deeply. Like, did I have something to do with those gates starting to close or something of the sort? Because I didn't see anything further up or further down the tracks. And I did consult a couple people, and they said, no, it was probably a glitch. Those things are automated based on times, and they're not controlled from that particular section of the railroad, not the crossing. So you probably just hit a glitch at the very right moment. But still messed me up. Still freaked me out because, wow. Like, I was thinking, do I have that kind of power? Can I turn this into the DeLorean, and then we go back to the future and get pushed by a train? Is that how this works? So yeah, very interesting. And let's just say it woke me up and put me in a daze of the Matrix, like what is real mode for the rest of the day. All right, so that's another story. That's something I'll never forget. And as a side note, I should have mentioned this earlier, but when I was over at my parents' house washing my fursuit, I was supposed to pick my cat up, and so some of you may know Archie. And he was outside, and he would not come to me. I, in fact, spent about 20 to 30 minutes, like, running through the woods behind my parents' house trying to catch him because this booger was approximately 3 feet in front of me at all times, out of arm's reach. So he knew what he was doing. He knew that he was being coy with me, and he would not come home. So Archie, if you're listening, which I know you're not, but you're a cat, so you probably find a way. Sir, you need to come home with Daddy sometime, okay? Unfortunately, I probably won't be seeing him because I got Megaplex next week, so I don't know what else to do. So, I can't wait for him to come home. I miss that boy terribly. All right. Well, we are coming to the close, or closer to the close of the podcast. And we have a couple of questions. So at the end of every podcast, I will be reading some questions, and we'll call it, I don't know what to call this segment yet. We're just going to call it some reads. So, couple of fine shout outs to some people for leaving questions. Let's see, I got a couple, I should get this list, like, set up before I start the podcast, just so I know who I'm reading from. Okay. So this first question comes from this is Sharuto Wolvesian, and they ask, would you rather have one extra arm or two? One extra arm or two? I think I'd have to go with one extra arm, because I think two would just be too many. Like, then you'd look like an insect, Like, the third one can be for, holding your snack while you play guitar. Or you could be driving with two hands, extra safe, and then have your third hand for your phone. Though, in order to have your third hand for your phone, you would need an extra eye so you can look at your phone. So, 3 eyes and 3 legs. Oh, what am I saying? Okay, yeah, how about this? 3 eyes, 3 arms, and 3 legs. Let's go with that. Thank you for your question. This next one comes from Drac the Panda, and they ask, if you were to get a tattoo, regardless of price, what would it be and where? I would probably get, that's a good question. I'd probably get a Trinity symbol somewhere, and I put it probably on the back of my shoulder blade because I want it to be discreet. But I'd get a Trinity symbol, probably with a cross in the middle, or I'd get maybe my persona's name, probably on my butt. That's what I would say. Because that's also discreet, but when people see it, they go, is that your persona name? Or if I want to be a generic, as generic as possible fur, I would get a paw print and probably put it on my right calf, the side of my right calf. So there you go. Let's see. I have a couple. Wow, there's a lot of questions. I'm going to do one more question. How about that? So this one comes from Dante. And Dante asks, if you could have lunch with anyone in history, who would it be and why? That is a very good question. There's a lot of history figures that I look up to. If I had to guess, if I had to say the one person that I would have dinner with, and I know that probably not the biggest fan of him. People aren't probably the biggest fan of him anymore, but I would have to go with it. Prime Minister Winston Churchill. Because not only was the man brilliant in his victory against fascism, but he was also a super savage. He did not take any crap from anybody. He had a great sense of humor, like a fantastic sense of humor, including self-deprecating, and he could roast people like nobody else could. Honestly, I think maybe Don Rickles got some of his material from Mr. Churchill. So I would have dinner with Mr. Churchill, and I would ask him, sir, well, I'd have 1,000 questions, but I'd ask him, sir, what do people think of you? Really? What do people really think of you? And he would probably say something along the lines of, they don't like me, but that's okay. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to win. So, or I'm here for Britain to win, or whatever he would say. He just think of like the most savage thing he would say about his country. So, yeah. The man also impresses me in the sense that he was also a very private person, and he had his methods of getting things done. So a lot of people don't know this, though if you saw The Darkest Hour, you probably know this. He had all of his communicators. Like, he had his people that would send telegrams, he had his people who would write letters, he had people who would take phone calls for him, and so on and so forth. And he would get live updates about the war, about World War II, and how things were going from basically a feeder machine, or from one of his people. But the thing that a lot of people don't know, and this was actually very smart of him to do, in his private quarters, in the bunkers, where his loo was, that's the bathroom for people who don't know, was a phone. And the phone went directly to the White House in the USA. So he could talk to President Roosevelt privately. He knew exactly when Roosevelt was up and when he was asleep. He knew when he could talk to him, when was a good time. And Roosevelt would pick up, and he would ask him. He would talk to him. They would converse, and they would make plans, and he would make requests. This was discovered before the USA got involved with the war, but still, it's pretty fantastic to know that that man had the foresight to have that communication with the U.S. president in order to win the war. So thank you, Dante, for that question. That was very enlightening. So that would be my answer. Prime Minister Winston Churchill. All right, that's the podcast, everybody. It's been a long week, and I'm very happy that you sat through this and listened to my ramblings. And here's to the upcoming week of Megaplex. Here's to safe trip, and here's to all of us having a great time there. I want to thank you all for your continued support. Thank you for supporting me over on this channel and seeing my archive live streams, as well as over on my main channel, my Twitch channel, Twitter, TikTok, and all those good things. If you'd like to see more, you can go down to the description, check out my link tree to all of my social medias, and you'll find some goodies there. And I want to leave you, as I always do, with a word of encouragement. At the end of every one of my videos, you'll see a Latin phrase, and that is Sic Parvis Magna. That translates in English to greatness from small beginnings. Never forget where you came from. Never forget the people who brought you up from nothing from the beginning, and never forget where your humble beginnings are, because they are indeed humble, and they help you with your purpose and where you're going. So I highly encourage you, never forget what happened from the beginning to get you to where you are now, and always thank those people that brought you up from the beginning. And always remember to be you no matter what. There is nobody else like you in this entire world. There never was anybody like you, and there never will be anybody like you. Remember, no matter what, fulfill your purpose, be yourself, never change for any person. Be who you are. And if people don't accept that, then that's the ones that you let go. So until next time, this is Samson Kitty Fox. Thank you for listening to the KittyFoxCast, and I will catch you in the next episode. Bye-bye.